had another grocery store experience last night, Tim. I was doing my price check videos, which you can see on the Supermarket News Instagram page and also on supermarketnews.com.
I
I
love
was
those
checking the
price check
price.
videos. They're great.
Oh, yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of localized around here, of course, because that's where we live. But one thing I've noticed is that the price of groceries in Illinois is considerably higher than the rest of the country. But I was checking cereal because one of the posters wanted us to check the price of cereal. Do you want to guess what a regular box of Kellogg's Apple Jacks cost at this Jewel? I was at a Jewel. They are higher in price, but you want to guess?
What size of box are we talking about? We're talking about the jumbo
Just
or
a standard box, not a family size, just your standard box of cereal.
regular good old fashioned box of Apple Jacks. $19.
Almost. You're close. This was on sale for $7.29.
Man,
On sale.
that's crazy. How
I
much was
don't so,
what's a regular price? Jeez.
7.49. You got 20 cents off the sale price, Tim. 20 cents.
That's it. That's not much of a sale.
When are you going to spend those 2 dimes? And it can't be pennies either because pennies are gone.
Yeah, the penny is going away soon, I hear.
It's going to die a sudden death. They're going to stop making it.
I'm glad I stopped drinking cereal or stopped eating cereal and drinking a lot of milk. I kind of cut the milk out a little bit a few years ago, and it's done me right.
I don't know. Something has to be done here regarding the grocery prices. We all know that grocery stores run on slim margins, and it just sounds like this is coming from the supplier end, these costs. The wholesale end, I don't know, but it's not letting up.
I think that's it, and I think that's one of the big reasons you see these private label brands flourishing. Like they don't charge, they make cereal and they charge like three, two, three, $4 maybe for it. And it's kind of the same thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think there was a time when people were happy to pay like a quarter more or 50 cents more or maybe $1 more for the name brand. But when it's like you got a $3 box and a $7 box, like people aren't
Yeah.
really going to stick with the Apple Jacks too quickly if it's that much.
They're going to do the private label Apple Jacks, which, the private label quality has really gone up in recent years. So, the CPGs don't have that advantage anymore. I can buy private label Apple Jacks. You can call them Apple Cores or whatever you want to call them, and it's going to taste about the same.
Yeah. Apple Bobs, Apple Bills.
Apple Apple Bob's, I think, sounds even better. But we're going to go to the meat counter and we're going to go to the meat of the matter. And we're not talking cereal. We're talking pills, like pharmacy pills. And
Heyo.
there's been a shift. I see a shift coming. You have Rite Aid basically folding. They're selling their stores off. They're basically out of business. You have Walgreens who have sold to a private investor, private developer, private company, and you have CVS kind of hanging in there. But now we're seeing a shift with Amazon and Walmart. And Walmart has made a very big shift in a relative short amount of time. So they last quarter they announced or they were running their pharmacy delivery program, brand new, delivering, pills, bottles of pills to people all across the country. So sales were up 10%. And you also have Walmart just opened its largest centralized prescription processing facility in Frederick, Maryland, and it's a 102,000 square foot site. It can fulfill up to 100,000 prescriptions a day and supports more than 700 stores across 16 states. And there's all kinds of people working at this processing facility. And what one of the things that Walmart is saying is, we're really focusing on pharmacy and we're trying to allow our pharmacists at Sam's Club and Walmart to focus more on patient care. Now that kind of rings a bell because as Walgreens, CVS, they really got into the patient care side of things over the last few years, and that has kind of dipped down with them. So Walmart's like, well, we're going to take over here, and do you see the same kind of shift I'm seeing with these two giants of Walmart and Amazon in pharmacy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that like for those two entities at this point, if one of them is doing something, the other one has to try. Outside of like Amazon Web Service and all of that stuff, but like as it entails like grocery and pharmacy and things, like they don't want the other to run away with this business, right? And become the king of the business. Like Walmart already pretty much controls grocery, and Amazon is trying to sort of chip away um, at that dominance. And I think they'd like to do the same thing with pharmacy. Like they announced earlier this year that they were going to open essentially what it is like micro fulfillment center. So it's kind of a different approach from what Walmart's doing in Maryland, I think. But like in 20 different cities, they're going to open these smaller kind of distribution centers, and that says that it will really open up the market to like I believe it is like half the country will be able to order same day or next day delivery from Amazon, I believe it is. So they're trying to establish their own presence too. And Andy Jassy, they just had their investor day, and again, as he often has done in the past, Andy Jassy talked about, and I'm pulling it up here, pharmacy, and he loves to say this. This is something we were talking about a little bit earlier, but like he loves to give this like prediction of what people in the future are going to be shocked at how we got our pharmaceutical drugs, that we had to call and make a doctor's appointment, and then we had to spend 20 minutes to get there, and then we had to wait in the office for 20 minutes, and then the doctor comes in and he only takes 5 minutes to talk to you, and then he or she is gone, and then you got to go home, you got to go and pick up your drugs, and sort of talking about how it's all very dragged out, and how it's this very like long arduous process, and they're trying to simplify this the same way that they've done like same day delivery for packaged goods and all this other retail stuff. So I think that's their approach.
And I think Amazon, they like to really plant that seed, and it takes a little while to develop. Like with grocery, like you heard at their where the earnings calls and everything, they were planting that seed about, oh, grocery is going to be dominant. We're going to be dominant in grocery, and it's starting to happen, and very slowly. And can you see the same thing on the pharmacy side, that they're just planting this seed and taking the same kind of approach?
Yeah, no, I think pharmacy right now is up for grabs, as you can see. Just like you said with Rite Aid, Walgreens, these major chains that were like they were the pharmacy companies, they were the grocers, and they were the pharmacy companies. And all of those pharmacy company, retail operations are starting to wither and dry up. And, you see this in the stores. You go into these CVS stores, especially in like major cities, and everything's behind, plastic, it's locked up, and you got to call somebody over to open up the counter so you can grab something because of, they say that shoplifting is such a bad problem. And Amazon, I don't know about Walmart, you cover them, but like I know that Amazon really plays this up. Like nobody wants to go to one of these legacy stores, they'll say, and wait for the person to come up because they don't trust you enough not to steal. I've heard all this kind of rhetoric, and I think that it's absolutely right. Like people don't want to go and wait for somebody to have to come to the counter and or come over to the aisle and just so they can get a bar of soap.
Yeah, and Walmart also announced today, under the headline, Walmart is helping Medicare Advantage customers seamlessly use there's supplemental health benefits for everyday wellness purchases. And some of the key insights here is new online badging across thousands of eligible products will make it easier for customers to shop with their health plan. And Walmart is also launching Walmart Everyday Health Signals, which is an AI platform, and it benefits providers to digitally integrate with Walmart, bringing AI enabled guidance that empowers participating customers to make health conscious choices. So here's another move by Walmart over the last couple of weeks regarding healthcare, and they're just going all in. And I always thought it was, when Walgreens and CVS kind of reached out and branched out into patient care, I thought that was great because, you go and try and get an appointment with your doctor these days, and I have to make my physical a year in advance, or else I'm not going to get in for the next year. It's that crazy. I mean, these doctors are over their eyeballs in patient care, and you got the baby boomers that are an aging population, and there's so many of them, and they're just swamped. So I thought, hey, going to my local Walgreens to get a throat culture, or obviously they do vaccines there, maybe get some advice. I thought was a great idea, but it took off with Walgreens and Rite Aid and CVS, and then it just kind of floundered. And now we're seeing that Walmart and I believe Amazon, like you said, they want to get involved in healthcare too, are kind of taking the baton here.
Yeah. Well, and Amazon has a service that they were, I mean, basically their big offering here is Amazon One Medical. And with that, it's this app that, it's sort of supposed to be one stop shopping for, pharmacy and medical. And so you can do like a video chat with a medical practitioner. You can set up a meeting or an appointment with the primary care physician here. All your pharmaceutical drugs, all of your prescriptions are supposed to be there and everything. So they're really kind of trying to disrupt the market in this way and make things easier. I think at this point it's just kind of a matter of who builds the better mousetrap. I think that Walmart has a huge advantage, and I think other pure play grocers have a huge advantage over Amazon, because Amazon doesn't really have physical stores. I mean, they have Whole Foods Market, but those Whole Foods Markets don't have pharmacies inside. And they have Amazon Fresh, but Amazon Fresh doesn't have pharmacies either. So like, I think that there is a trend with people to go do their grocery shopping, go get their drugs, do everything in one fell swoop. And I think that's one area where Amazon might find themselves coming up short.
And I do think that there is going to be something that will be missed, as we move forward, and that's just the local pharmacist, just like the local grocer. I know my mom she goes to a Randall's pharmacy, I think they only have a couple stores. All they do is pharmacy stuff.
Hmm.
And, she knows this pharmacist. The pharmacist knows her. You have that relationship. So certainly among the older population, they're going to miss that. But however, you got Gen X, you got Gen Z, you got these generations coming up where the personalization is not necessarily as important. So here's my paper or plastic question of the episode for you. In 10 years, will we see the likes of Walgreens and CVS pretty much gone, and Walmart and Amazon and maybe somebody else will hop in like Costco or something, and they will basically be your local pharmacist, or will it be status quo in the next 10 years?
Man, that's a tricky question.
We're getting
Um,
bold, Tim. We're getting bold with this paper or plastic today.
I know, man. You're putting me in the hot seat here. I think that everything will be run by robots 10 years from now, and all diseases will be cured, so
Here?
we won't need pharmaceutical drugs anymore. Um, No, to me, I think it will become less personalized, honestly, like a lot of things. I think that, you know, it's not unlikely the idea that like drones will just deliver it or something. You know, they're already doing that, and pharmaceutical drugs are pretty lightweight in terms of, you know, their the package's size. And yeah, I mean, like if I could just like wave a magic wand and have a drone, you know, blow into my backyard here and drop it off, I'd do that in a second. But some people really want to talk to the pharmacist. I think a lot of it depends on your medical needs, really. But the idea that there's going to be a Walgreens on every corner, like a freestanding brick and mortar, that's our main business is pharmaceutical drugs. Probably not.
Yeah, I really do think that, we're seeing a shift here. I'm going to go along with what I said at the beginning of the episode. And, Sam's Club, Walmart, Costco, um, Amazon, they're all going to become major players. The only thing I question is, you know, I thought Walgreens and CVS were doing it right, with expanding out to patient care. So they need to figure out if indeed this is what they want to pursue. It looks like Walmart is showing all signs it does. They need to figure out what went wrong, with Walgreens and CVS and what happened there and learn off of that. And if they can do that, you also have the urgent care facilities too. You have to factor in too. I really do think, like you said, a Walgreens on every corner not going to be there in 10 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's certainly going to be a very interesting development,
Well,
and
and
one
yeah,
is worth.
no, I think that's the thing. It's like there was this idea that like Walgreens was gonna and CVS and you know Rite Aid, I suppose, was gonna be like it was a real estate game, you know, and it was like you don't want to have to drive halfway across town to the grocery store. The Walgreens is gonna be like right down the street from you, you know, and with the way that delivery has gotten, like you don't even really have to do that anymore. So it's a lot of it has to do with shopper preference, I think.
In the meantime, Tim, take care of yourself.
Yeah,
Do what you need to do to just stay healthy.
taking my vitamin C every day, man.
Stay away from those dyes. Just stay away from blue number 3. Okay, just don't go back on that kick again.
You know I'm a Blue 2 guy.
Yeah, I know. It's you're going through the 12-step program. I appreciate that. I think you're going to make it. I have all confidence in you, but let's just forge ahead here and have the healthiest of lives. For Timothy Inkelbarger, I am Bill Wilson. Have a healthy week, everyone.